thank you so much for being here.
Oh my goodness, thank you for having me. I'm so excited.
Absolutely. So your organization, Black Girl Environmentalist, can you tell me more about it? You're the founder and director, and so you would know everything about it.
Yeah, I would hope so. I would hope so.
Yeah.
So yes, I am the proud founder and executive director of Black Girl Environmentalist. We are a national organization that's working to address the unique pathway and retention issue that exists in the climate sector for Black girls and Black gender expansive folks. So I can zoom out a little bit as to why that's our mission. So when we look at the US population, people of color make up nearly 40%, but we don't exceed a 12 to 16% green ceiling. So we see that there's a gap in terms of diverse talent, but then also there's a gap in terms of who has green skills. So Gen Z, when we look at folks who have green skills, only 1 in 10 Gen Z around the world has a green skill. And when we look at women around the world, only 1 in 10 women have a single green skill. So Black Girl Environmentalist is trying to address these circumstances by building pipelines and making sure that the next generation is properly resourced to be climate leaders.
Yeah. And can you tell me more about green skills? Like, what is a green skill specifically?
Yeah. A green skill can look like a number of different things. A green skill could be someone getting the skills to fill in potholes. It could be a skill to be a policymaker. It could be a skill to work in conservation. But the thing is, there aren't as many folks going into the green economy space in general. So I think we also have to shift the narrative to make sure that we're making those roles more sexy. And that's what Black Girl Environmentalist is trying to do, make green jobs feel cooler.
Yeah, I see. And was there a moment, was there an event or any sort of gathering that you had as an organization that really felt like the moment things were clicking, like things were really taking off?
Yeah, I would say it was the first summer of our Hazel and Johnson Fellowship Program. So one of our biggest programs is called the Hazel and Johnson Fellowship Program. It was named after the mother of environmental justice from the great city of Chicago. And it's an organization it's a program that's working to essentially build a pipeline of diverse talent into green internships. So there's a lot of gaps in regards to who gets to enter the green space. So we've teamed up with different organizations and companies to have internships available for our fellows. So our fellows do 10 weeks over the summer. They get at least $18 an hour. We pay them at least $5,000 for a living wage stipend. We do weekly professional development support, and we end the summer with a 4-day-long retreat in nature in Washington State. So the moment that was really, really beautiful for me and my team was getting to meet all our fellows for the first time last summer and then meet our second cohort this year and have them talk about how they finally feel like there's a home for them in the climate movement.
Yeah. Wow. That's incredible. And so, I guess zooming out for a second past the organization, you know, there's all of this climate work that needs to be done, and you would think that your greatest ally would be the government in the country that you live, but unfortunately we, are here. And so what do you do when you not only don't have support, but there's like active hostility towards climate science or climate activists?
It's tough. It's a lot of whiplash. So we're coming off of a Biden administration that was really committed for putting hundreds of millions of dollars into the hands of grassroots organizations through the Inflation Reduction Act and Justice 40. And so we saw organizations that were awarded tons of funds, around $29 billion, and those funds have now been frozen or canceled without,
You see, you clapped too soon.
Without due process. So I have some friends that found out that their organizations lost funding from newspapers before they even got notified by their emails. So we have a lot of organizations in the green economy space, organizations and workers who are at the front lines of deploying and scaling climate solutions, really scrambling for funds. So it's difficult, but at the same time, there has been good movement happening. There's a coalition called America's All In, which is a coalition of different businesses and academic centers and cities and municipalities and states who are still committed to the Paris Accords and still committed to climate targets that are going to hopefully get us to where we need to go. But we definitely need philanthropy to stand up, corporate America to stand up, and to really help fill the gaps that the federal government is pulling back on.
Yeah. I would say that you mentioned, getting us where we need to be or getting us where we're trying to go and everything. And one thing I see when I look at you is someone who is deeply, deeply optimistic and working in climate, which you would think would be two separate things. You know what I mean? Like, just because of what's happening in the world, and like even before, we used to think the greatest threat, all the energy and all of the pollution was just going to be like fossil fuels, but now you have AI and you have data centers being built and everything, so that's a whole different thing to tackle, which has nothing but like just mounds and mounds of money behind it, and people who are full steam ahead because they think that it's gonna take them to some sort of utopia or something. Yeah. And so, how do you find that optimism? Because whenever I watch anything that you do, I genuinely see lots of hope, lots of excitement, lots of care, and I wonder how.
Yeah. People always ask me that, and I'll first affirm, I think it would be insane for folks not to feel the kaleidoscope of the emotional responses that climate change in our world, the things that it presents us. I feel hopeless and angry and frustrated a lot of the time, maybe not online.
Sure.
But I do have moments like this, and I think what's been really helpful is reframing the climate crisis in a lot of ways and reframing what it is that we're inheriting. Mm-hmm. So we are inheriting the biggest crisis of all time, and it's a crisis that we didn't create, but we have to solve, and that's frustrating, and it's important to hold that truth. But we're also inheriting wisdom from movements of our past, movements that also had to deal with what felt like insurmountable odds, like abolition, civil rights, labor movements, women's suffrage. None of those movements ever had any guarantee of success, yet people continue to persevere. And there's so much that we can learn from the organizing tactics that have been left behind for us. Solidarity being a big one, coalition building being a big one. And we really need that in the climate space, because the climate crisis is not just an ecological crisis. Yes, ecological breakdown is clearly happening, but it's also a crisis of care and a crisis of connection. We really have a problem with seeing the value in nature and non-human species and other humans. We see this with the existence of sacrifice zones in Cancer Alley. We see that with the ongoing genocides happening around the world, with the ethnic cleansing of Palestinian people. We have to have the moral courage and clarity to refuse to bring that type of dangerous business as usual into the future that we're building. And so I always try to ask the question back to folks who ask me, are we doomed, or are we going to solve this crisis? That's not the correct question that we should be asking, because there isn't just one future waiting for us. There's many possible futures, and the future that we get is based off of the decisions that we make.
Yeah. Just make like a little recording of that response right there, whatever somebody says, that we're cooked. Like that's it. And so if people want to not just join in theory, but if people want to really be a part of the effort, are there actionable things that people in those sort of local communities can do to get started?
I would always recommend that folks look up the local organizations in their communities doing the good work. There are everyday people doing the work every single day. People who have green jobs, people who are doing their climate work outside of their 9 to 5, and it's really, really exciting. And I think that what we need more today is good climate storytelling. So much of what people hear about climate change is a doom and gloom, and there's so much truth in that. It is bad, and if we don't do anything, it could get worse. And there are everyday people pushing for a better tomorrow in really cool, innovative ways. One of my favorite organizations is called the Descendants Project. They're based in Louisiana, and they are actually buying back plantations as a means. No, they're super cool. They've bought back 2 plantations that their ancestors were previously enslaved upon, and they're using them as sites of reclamation, fighting against the narrative violence of plantation tourism, as well as using them as sites to educate their communities about how the petrochemical industry is basically poisoning the health of their communities, and they're fighting back and winning. And it's so cool. If more people knew about women like Dr. Joe and Joy Banner, who are the founders of the Descendants Project, I feel like more folks would lean into climate optimism and see the possibilities of how they could get involved too.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I feel like, yeah, I feel like every time you say something, you give me like 3 more questions in my head because it is fascinating to talk to someone who isn't just in one direction seeing where we're going to go. Because like I said, I have other friends who are in climate projects and part of the overall movement that as soon as like data centers became a thing, they were like, oh, well then it's kind of shot. And so I think that for most people, they don't really realize how big their impact is as an individual. And so even when you're engaging with things like AI and maybe it's using this energy and you don't really think of yourself in that, right? Like, do you think that there's a way to communicate people's individual impact in a way that kind of crosses all the intersections that you're talking about with Black Girl Environmentalists and all of the climate justice that you're trying to do? Like, I think that in the longest way possible to ask a question. I think that it's incredibly difficult for someone to see themselves as the next big climate advocate. And I think a lot of people think they have to be that to even get involved. What would you say is the thing that you're looking for if someone comes to you specifically, like for Black Girl Environmentalists? Was the thing that you look for in the person, and then the thing that you put out with them into the world?
Yeah, so I think it depends on the context, right? So if someone's interested in BGE, usually they're like a Black girl environmentalist, or maybe someone who hasn't always felt like that term has resonated with them. Mm-hmm. So I think it's really important for me to meet people where they're at. And I think that might be something that we're missing from sustainability or environmental discourse at large. It always feels like a zero-sum game. You ask something about AI, you ask something about recycling, and no matter how you answer it, you're gonna make someone mad. And that's fair, we all have different opinions, but I do think that we should be leaning into these conversations with values. There are certain things that we can all get behind. In fact, when we look at polling, the majority of Americans believe our government should be doing more around safeguarding clean air and clean water and safeguarding healthy communities. That's something we can get behind. I'd rather have those conversations to bring people in and then talk about the solutions from there.
Got you. And my last question, because you are a founder of an organization and you're flying across the world giving talks and like building community and everything, and you're also very young and you started this work even earlier than that. So are you going to retire at any point, or do you think this is it?
I would say something I would like to see is less youth climate activists or less youth activists. I started at 15, and sometimes I wonder what it would have been like for me to spend more time being a kid. And now I'm adult, and now I have to do big girl stuff, and sometimes I want to lean back into the time that I lost in a way. But ultimately, the climate crisis isn't going anywhere, so I'll continue to be doing this work, and Black Girl Environmentalist is a huge priority of mine. But I would love to help contribute to telling better climate stories and highlighting cool solutions like solar grazing, which is where you bring different grazing animals to solar farms to help bring the vegetation. I can talk about solar grazing, but cute climate solutions that people want to hear about. And that's something that I like to do more and help change the narrative around climate to one that restructures the climate crisis as an opportunity to restructure our world, because I think that Mother Earth is giving us really important feedback that the structures that we've relied on for so long aren't working, and that we have a once-in-a-species long opportunity to be better and do better.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate this. This means a lot to me. Thank you for being here. I think everybody is inspired by you and your work, and I'm so thankful for you, okay? Y'all, absolutely. For more information, check out blackgirlenvironmentalist.org. Wawa Gatheru.